I'm reading, guys. I'm going back to the bottom. I can only go back so far, Brother Michael, per the Jeremiah study. Is it not in man to direct his own steps? How much of your life is influenced? Is any of our life, ours, not influenced? You know what, Eric? I don't believe so. And that is back in the book of Jeremiah, right? Because it's also in, let me see. Let me go into my notes. 183 places in the Bible where it basically states that it's not within man to direct his own steps. Everything in a man's life is influenced. I want you to think about something. You wear clothing. Why do you wear clothing? You didn't think that up. You copied what you saw from somebody else. Why do you wear what you wear? You didn't dream that up. You've taken what man has made, what's available to you, right? And you don it, and we always call it something new, right? We always claim ownership over something somebody else invented. We throw it on ourselves, call ourselves original, but in truth, our language, our, what we do in life, all of it is mimicry, basically, right? It gives us comfort to think that we're in control all the time, but in truth, all of it is suggestive in a spiritual sense. Now, what I mean by that is that before you do something, you always receive these contrary thoughts, right? That's when somebody says, should I or should I not? And sure enough, you have something complementing, right? With every decision you have to make, there's a complement of almost good and evil, right? Kind of like in a cartoon or something, to make that choice. I believe that the Lord gives us, we have natural direction by way of the born-again spirit, right? But we also live in the flesh, which is highly influential to Satan himself. So why do you think in the Bible it says God is against the carnal mind and he's against carnality, period? So that means your natural state is carnal. That's your natural state, carnal. The first mind you have, your physical mind, is carnal, is of the earth. What the Lord has given us, he's departed to us a spirit that's totally intact, with the ability to think outside of the brain, right? Outside of the body, right? And so these two things are always contrary one to another. Your body is always subjugated to spirits in the first place. In fact, your body is alive by way of the spirit, right? It cannot live without the spirit. Without the spirit, your body is dead. Isn't that something? That's something. So the spirit is almost like the actual switch that turns everything on. Without that spirit, your body dies. There's no will or anything else. Now, if you are in that body and you are in fact a spirit, right? Your body just does not move by itself, right? You're not, in other words, the Bible puts it like this, that you don't sin apart from the flesh. You have to agree with the flesh to sin. And flesh is highly influenced by dark entities who understand the flesh very well. When you make a decision, there are compliments in your mind, which is why you have to take captive your thoughts, right? Which is why you have to cast down imaginations. So you can either agree with what is good or what is evil. Now, that's a dead giveaway, right? How do you make a good decision? How does anybody make a decision that's bound in goodness? How does somebody make a decision that's bound in darkness? How? You have to choose the right way or the wrong way. Now, the way is already established, isn't it? It's already established, right? You just have to choose which one. When you choose which one, you're following a path that's already established before you every single time. Every single time. You see that? So even in that context, is anything we do of ourselves, are we really walking by ourselves? No. What we're doing is we're choosing a path that is already established, and we either follow the righteous path or the unrighteous path, right? That's it. But that path is already before us. God set before us an open door. God set before us a path, right? A path to righteousness. There is a way that we can take that's already established if we choose to take it. So then it's already established. We control the choice. But the way is already established, whether that be of death or of life. God set those ways before us. So it's all there. Isn't that something? Is that helpful? Awesome. Okay, let me back up, guys. I'm trying to get all these. I'm going to try and squeeze all these in as fast as I can. Oh, somebody said, how deep will the water be in the water event? Approximately time. I don't know how deep the water will be. I don't know. The time frame of that water event, listen, the water event is not a one-day event, right? It is something that people are going to have to deal with for some time. You know what? All the branches of government, they know about this. All the branches of the armed services, they know about this. They do. They've known about it for some time now. And they have made, preparations for that. They have a contingency for that. They've also had scenarios, or not scenarios, but they simulated, right? As part of an operation, they simulated that event itself. They didn't tell everybody what the event was about, but they often do this. They'll run these simulations, and they'll have maybe 750,000 soldiers actually participate in these scenarios, and they will gain valuable knowledge from it, right? That means with the officers who are running the program in the first place, from the officers who are in the operations centers doing coordination with the battalions and troops, they will get valuable information. That includes the enlisted soldiers who are on the ground actually doing things, and the civilian volunteers who act like the people who are going to be victims of whatever. They not only do they do that, right? They will also simulate all the aspects of it. And they have done this multiple times, just like an alien invasion, right? They already had several different simulations of alien invasion, and they had, what do we have? We had 1.2 million troops involved in that. So they've done this in real time to see what the outcome would be. They collect the data, and then what they do with the data is they go over that data, and then they write policy. Then you'll have certain bills that will pass that will allocate resources should that event take place. They already have a plan of what to do, what the procedures are, and everything else. They do this all the time. They've done this with the water event, with alien invasion. They've also done it with crustal displacement. They have done it with 2 meteor impacts. I've never seen a scenario with just one meteor. They always have it where there's 2. I don't know why they use 2, but they always do it where there are 2 impacts to the Earth, always. And they have also done it with civil war, right? Which is what Northcom has a burden of that. They have a burden of really beginning to sift through the populations. They also have something, there's been a larger simulation, you could say, not Jade Helm, but something much bigger. And it involved all the Allied forces, not against communist forces, but Allied forces coming to the aid of those who are in these other countries. Those simulations have been done too, so they know that the money amount or how many resources it's going to take, the recruitment process of civilians, how they would deal with dissidents at that time, and everything involved in it, how the transportation system would change to help assist these guys, who they could call in to do what, as far as the Navy is concerned, rescue operations, this, that, and the other, and who's going to die. They always have a casualty count, or an acceptable loss of life is always equated in these scenarios. They have done them all, and they have very deep studies concerning all of these scenarios, all of them. But so do all the other countries involved in these things. And they work a lot side by side outside of the command structure you see. Countries work together for the sake of the people a lot. They do it a lot. They really do. And so all those countries being included, they have their plans, they have their libraries, their procedures they would enact should they think these things happen. In Congress, certain bills go to Congress, and from retaliation to nuclear weapons to some of the newer weapons and everything else, they have bills put in place that will pass immediately under, a war act should these things take place. So there we are. They know about it. Preparations are made for it. The Army Corps of Engineers have already strengthened and well, let's just say manipulated both of the coasts of the U.S. In preparation for it, because they know that a water event is coming. They know it. And everything right now, everything is changing according. It's just happening. Just like you would read a book and see a set of events that would happen right before the water event. It's been happening all this time. These events are most certainly coming. For those of you who don't know anything about these events, it's very difficult to believe. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to believe anything until they're dead by that, whatever it is, right? But there's nothing wrong with having your mind prepared to deal with anything that would come, right? Right? So that you're not so shaken that you won't be able to stand. Because remember the declaration of our God. Everything will be shaken, so let only that which cannot be shaken will remain. Remember that. Everybody's going to go through a little something. And what that will do is bring the real you out to the forefront. That goes for all of us. So the real you, under duress, right? You the person you are now in peacetime, that's not who you are. You can always tell who a person is only in times of great duress. Only in times of great duress. And duress is when you're stressed out, you're perplexed on every side. That's when you find out who the person is. When everything is peaceful, we can act like anybody. People act like they're nice, but in truth, they're not nice. People act like they're Christians, but in truth, they're not Christians. And in a time of great adversity, this truth will come out. Then you will know who's who. But at that time, you're not going to be concerned about what this person to your left or to your right is doing, I can assure you. You're not going to have a concern about that. I think during that time, things will be so authenticated within a person's heart that they're only going to be, they're going to be focused on what they really are. So if you're an evil person, right, you're going to forsake everything and save your own self. If you're if you're an authentic person, just genuinely good at heart, you really live your life for others, and nobody knows it, yet you're going to risk everything for the sake of other folks. I've seen this unfold in combat scenarios too many times, and it's always a surprise to know that the quiet ones you thought were, kind of not able to do this and the other, they really are like David. And that some of the bigger ones are just like Goliath, right? They lose their heads every single time. They're strong, they talk a lot, they're mouthy, and they can't do anything, right? I found that to be true in the realm of faith, because when you're in a conflict like that, you'd be surprised how many Christians won't even mention Jesus. They won't. They mention him in the wrong way. They take his name in vain. They say his name, and then, it's kind of like a side mark. But some of those you wouldn't even think that believed. They would stand up and tell the other folks, hey, God is with us through Christ. Let's keep going. Let's do what we do in the name of freedom. You would just be shocked at how it changes, right? You'd be shocked. That means in a real rough scenario, imagine this. Imagine Pooh Bear stands up and leads everybody, right? In a time of great adversity, and I shut up, sit down, and start cowering behind a tree. Well, it works just like that. It works just like that every time. So a person, and something for yourselves, though, you don't even know who you are until you go through something. You don't know who you are. You may think you're strong. You may think you're level-headed. You don't know who you are until great adversity comes, which is why it's never good to boast about what you're going to do and all this, that, and the other, because the truth is, men are often made liars by boasting, because you are someone for sure, but who that person is, you'll never know until great adversity comes. And that great adversity, well, we'll have quite a few of those. So we're certainly going to find out who is who. Now, I've already warned of this. For Christians, it's going to be quite painful. Those you think would be strong and would carry things through, they will not. And those that you have deemed weak, passive, right, and they couldn't do a thing, those are going to be the Davids of the bunch. So never be surprised when the ones you thought you could count on, you can't. They run, skimper away like minnows chased by big fish. And those you thought would be just consumed in the first 5 minutes of the traumatic event, those are the ones that stand up. They will risk their own lives for the smallest of anybody, for the least amount or the least significant person, right? That I'm telling you, you'll see some wonderful things and some bad things. But get your hearts prepared, because by saying all that, I'm telling you something. You don't know who your family members are. You don't. You will only know who, God knows who they are, but you don't. We only know each other by what we see and what another person has done and what we observe. You certainly don't know another person by who they are spiritually. Only your Father in heaven knows that. We get hints of things, but those hints could absolutely be wrong. In a time of great adversity, a person will not hide who they really are. When their life is on the line, that's when you find out who a person really is. So prep your hearts for that, so that you're not stumped when you're shocked or something. When one of your strong figures you see folds up, or when one of the weak figures stands up and leads people out. Don't be shocked by those things. Get prepared for the truth is what I'm telling you. Prepare for the truth.